Cool. So the green button. Well, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Beautiful people, beautiful advocates, beautiful colleagues. Thank you very much for the invitation, guys. I'm here to present you our experience from the six first months of our PrEP pilot project in Greece, which is called Sophocles P4G. And this is my disclosure that I have nothing to do with the name. I do not suffer. I'm not diagnosed with a narcissistic, disorder. But the principal investigator, he was like, okay, we've been given, all the ancient Greek writers' names to many different projects, and he was really thinking of a new name, and I was like in front of him, and he was, okay, we're going to name it after you. And here I am. So, yeah. So before I start, I would like to remind all of us here what Dr. Anthony Fauci, along with his team in the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, had said that in order for us to see the eradication of the HIV epidemic, we have to take into consideration 4 pillars. Apart from early detection of the HIV infection, easy access to testing and treatment, linkage to care, we always need to have in mind that we could prevent at-risk individuals for acquiring HIV infection, including the use of pre-exposure prophylaxis to them. And this leads me to the next slide, where we see the estimated annual % change in HIV diagnosis by US states PrEP use for 5 years, 2012 to 2016. And I would like to grab your attention to the yellowish and the pinkish text boxes. So we see that we had 5% increase in new HIV diagnosis in the group with the lowest PrEP use within these 5 years, whereas we had a 23% of decrease in new diagnoses in the group with the highest PrEP use. Once again, we have seen that as PrEP scales up, as the access to PrEP and the use of PrEP scales up, we can see that the HIV incidence declines. And this is a slide I borrowed from AIDS 2018 in Amsterdam. Let's get to the project now. So it's about a targeted administration of PrEP to HIV-positive networks. It's a collaboration between many institutes like the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens, the Hellenic Scientific Society for the Study of AIDS and Sexually Transmitted Diseases, the University of Chicago, the Public Health School of the University of Chicago, us, the Checkpoint, and Positive Voice, which is the Greek Association of People Living with HIV. The funding stemmed from the US National Institute of Health and Gilead Sciences, which they had provided us with Truvada, with their product. And the aims of the study was to determine the demographic and the behavioral characteristics of MSM getting PrEP, the emphasizing of the importance of linkage to care aimed at administering PrEP to high-risk HIV-negative MSM, and to collect data regarding the early parameters of the PrEP cascade so we can afterwards use them for PrEP effectiveness simulations and models as a public health intervention. Let's split the program into 2. So method 1, the so-called Sophocles program. The aim was to recruit 100 HIV-negative high-risk MSM, and we would afterwards give them PrEP. The recruitment procedure took place in the Athens Checkpoint, which is the first community-based... Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So the recruitment procedure took place in our premises, the Athens Checkpoint, the first community-based HIV and other STIs testing and promotion facility, both operating in Athens and Thessaloniki. We were based upon a respondent-driven sampling methodology. We interviewed our participants through a structured questionnaire, which was a kind of like tiring and time-exhausting because it lasted for 1.5 hours. We also had a financial incentive for their participation. And the search period lasted a bit longer from what we expected. So we started end of 2016, and we ended like April 2018. Here we see the participants' demographics. So we managed to have 308 participants of the Sophocles questionnaire, 282 negative, 21 positives, and 5 with new with a recent HIV diagnosis, which were, of course, they were linked to care afterwards. The majority of them was of Greek origin, 30 years old, and the median number of the years of their education, 15.7. 20% of them stated that they were unemployed back then, and 40 people said that their sexual orientation was bisexual. The majority of them had been tested for HIV in the past year. Also, they reported an STI diagnosis in the past year, and the median number of the size of their sexual network was 10 persons in the last 6 months. We had a variation from 3 to 30 persons, and 30% reported symptoms of depression through a scale, depression scale we used. So the eligibility criteria for PrEP use were met by 129 people out of 282 respondents of the Sophocles questionnaire, and 107 people continued in the clinical trial in the P4G. So this is the method number 2. P4G stands for PrEP for Greece, and it's about the clinical trial. And here we see the eligibility criteria. Somebody needed to be both HIV and hepatitis B negative. They needed to have quite a high number of sexual partners in the past year, to report STIs in the past year, STI diagnosis, to have unprotected anal intercourse. Also to look for, they needed to have looked for PEP in the past year, and chemsex activities. And here we see the broken down of the year, because we were following up we were monitoring these 100 HIV negative MSM, high-risk MSM for a year. And we can see that we had 6 visits of theirs, and they were administered daily PrEP, TDF-FTC, Truvada. And we see the holistic prevention package we offered to them, which was about regular screening for HIV and other STIs treatment, vaccination planning, identification of potential side effects. We also monitored their renal function and their PrEP adherence. And also, they needed to keep a daily diary noting down like information regarding sexual acts of theirs and potential drug use. And this brings me to our 6 months PrEP cascade. So we started so we had 107 people that they expressed their willingness to take PrEP. And we were left with 100 people that we put them in the clinical trial because of all these reasons. One had to ask for PEP. We had a positive in hepatitis B diagnosis. We had 1 lost to follow-up, and 4 people withdrew their willingness to take PrEP. And after 6 months, we were left with 84 people, once again for these reasons. So for 4 participants, we had 6 months visit. Their visit was pending. 8 participants, they said that their sexual risk, they believed that their sexual risk was reduced at that point. 3 lost to follow-up, and we also had 1 seroconversion because it was about an acute infection during the window period, right before they started PrEP. Some results from the screening for PrEP. The median age was 33.5 years. The majority of them had a higher education. They were, half of them were fully employed. The median number of the size of their sexual network was 30 people. Most of them were participating in group sex, and they were also finding their sexual partners through mobile applications. 79.7% stated that they were doing drugs. And when we wanted to check specifically for chemsex, this number came to 66.7%. And here we see the participants' behavioral characteristics. And what we can note is that we had, regarding both drug use and chemsex, they were higher before they started PrEP. And in the other diagram, we see that we didn't have any specific increase in the incidence of STIs after our people started PrEP. So we didn't see any significant difference before and after PrEP start. Of course, the adherence to PrEP was very, very high. We talk about 96%, which was stable in both quarters. Yeah, thank you very much, Gus. And this is a slide I really like. And this is the answer to people who say that, no, we don't need PrEP because the rest of the STIs will be increased, blah, blah, blah. We all know about these kind of stories. And this is my answer, that let's see the PrEP thing as the vehicle, as a platform to like diagnose perhaps undiagnosed older STIs, or to diagnose something new that these people wouldn't know otherwise. So we diagnosed and treated 8% of comorbidities to our people. We vaccinated 50% of them for hepatitis A and 24 for hepatitis B, respectively. And we also diagnosed and treated 24% of other STIs, which you can see. Conclusions. We consider that the adoption of a PrEP administration program for both primary and secondary STI and HIV transmission prevention program is very important. The creation of special sexual health structures where PrEP could be administered is also important. So let's get out of the traditional clinical environment of a hospital, which means that let's engage more the community settings. And the collaboration with the community in the design and the implementation of HIV prevention programs is also of salient importance. I am on an embargo, which means that I couldn't present the whole results of the whole year. But what I can tell you is that 74 preppers completed the program. The implementation of PrEP in Greece seemed that was not associated with an increase both in high-risk behaviors and the frequency of other STIs. And we also had an excellent PrEP adherence. News travel fast and demand is increasing. We have a lot of ways to access information regarding PrEP nowadays. And these are some data stemming from the database of our checkpoint. So we can see here that from 2016 to 2018, both knowledge and willingness to take PrEP from the community has been increased. And in conclusion, I would like to echo what our PrEP glamazon, she's a phenomenon, she's a glamazon, Professor Sheena McCormack said in IAS 2017 in Paris, give the power to the people, put the pill in their palms, okay, I don't know it by heart, but, or in their pocket, or in a pouch, don't be a slouch, tell the doctors to get lost, that will drop the cost. And with that, I would like to thank you very much for your attention.